We'll have Rohit Srivastava tell us what this really means, in fact, for all our investors. Also, the IT pack, perhaps on the back of a trade deal with the US, now, as per Donald Trump, very close in the making, has seen a rally in IT stocks as well. So let's actually throw it now to Rohit Srivastava, who joins us this morning. Rohit, good morning. Thank you so much for your time. Help us understand, first up, the second consecutive day where markets seem to be in a good mood, obviously buoyed to a large extent by the statement that came from Donald Trump late day before yesterday, midnight, yesterday, early morning. Beyond that, we are also seeing great momentum in energy stocks this morning. What is your read early morning right now?
So, the good news is that we have a nice gap up, and when we actually look at that on charts, gaps are, interesting points where you get support in future. It leaves behind space, giving you a sign of strength that the market is, able to hold up above and beyond a certain point. So we'll of course be watching this opening gap for the rest of the day. And if we don't go, say, below 25,800, then 25,800 will get established as a important support going forward. So that's a good sign. I think we're seeing it after quite some time, and it will set the stage for further gains from here, from this particular level.
All right.
So that's as far as the Nifty is concerned.
All right. Talk to us about energy stocks. We are seeing ONGC is up about 2.2% or so in trade. Reliance Industries also up almost 1% or so. What's going on in the energy space?
So I think there's been a slight pickup in oil prices, though typically we would have seen oil prices, head lower. And I was anticipating that, if the, Russia, Ukraine problem gets sorted in some way, you could have one last sell-off in oil at some point of time. But the near-term pattern is set up for oil prices to head back towards $65 to $68. So that's, and we saw a positive breakout in oil prices last night, indicating that possibility. So I think that sort of got some enthusiasm into the oil stocks. Prior to that, we were probably seeing it mostly only in oil marketing companies that benefit from the lower oil prices in terms of margin. So it's been a good, interesting space, oil, but then oil prices have been relatively stable on a 1 year basis. These are of course near-term moves that we've seen up and down in the sector. But yeah, we are seeing interest building up in that place, not just in India but also globally. So that also plays a role, because if you look at some of the US oil related indices or ETFs, they've actually done pretty well on a 3 to 6 month basis. So there is a growing interest in the oil pack.
Right. So oil prices rising globally, obviously good news for oil companies, oil exploration companies. But what does it mean for consumers? Would fears of inflation creep up again, or do you think $65 to $70 a barrel is a reasonable level and is unlikely to impact inflation and hence the macro economy?
No, it won't impact inflation because it's a narrow range. A $5-10 move in oil prices doesn't really get to inflation. It's bigger move, and it's also about speed. So when you remember, inflation is a Y on Y calculation,
Right.
and we look at oil prices over a 2 year period, they're actually down. So therefore, you don't get a positive read into the movement.
All right. So no fears on inflation. Talk to us about the IT sector, Rohit. Of course, trade deal with the US potentially in the making. Also, I mean, the statement coming from Donald Trump yesterday very clearly suggesting that India and US are very close, and also saying that India is going to love the US. We don't know how far that love story is going to go and how quickly we will get there. But IT stocks really rejoicing in that potential trade deal now finally in the making, because of course Bihar, also the final phase of polling concluded yesterday, and the expectations were that a trade deal will be announced. But then statement coming from Piyush Goyal suggesting that there's no compromise on the interest of farmers or the dairy sector or the fisheries as well as labor intensive sectors. So what could that deal potentially then look like if India hasn't sort of given any leeway on those counts, and hence put the story of the IT stocks and their optimism also in perspective?
So we have to go back and think that this is a lot about negotiation. Not everything that is said is going to get done, which means that you can say that I'll do all these bad things to you so that you can get people on a negotiation table. Maybe some of those things may not happen. Similar to his comments around the H1B visas overnight, that is coming in and is defending the need for jobs which bring in talent. So it clearly shows that there are two aspects to everything, and they recognize it, but they did what they had to at that point of time. So when we finally get the trade deal, I think there'll be a lot of pluses and small minuses here and there. But India's made it clear that we are not going to let our interests go down. So I think that's why it's taken so long to negotiate this. But hope that we get closer to the end of it, so it does away with the most important thing for markets, and it's uncertainty. Once you get uncertainty out of the way, markets can do what they want to. Now,
Right.
specifically on the IT sector, definitely it's been very, very oversold. And in the most recent sell-off, we did not fall to a new low compared to the bottom we actually made in April. And so that's sort of setting the stage for a good trade in the IT segment. So I think IT stocks may look like a good buy from a 3 to 4 week perspective. Sorry. But I've also given out this view in my previous interactions that when I take a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year view, I wouldn't want to be invested in IT. So they can be good trades,
Yeah.
but they might not be long-term performers.
All right. Just stay with us for a moment, Rohit. Let's cut across now to Lalit Keshre, the founder CEO of Groww, who's speaking from the floor of the NSE ahead of listing today.
The second story is about the confidence of the new India. As part of our customer engagement, all of us visit across the countries, smaller cities across the countries. And then I was at one of those events, we call them Ab India Karega Invest. And I saw a father-daughter duo sitting in the audience, and the daughter very young, almost half the age of the entire kind of room, and she was asking so sharp and so confident questions. And I got a chance to meet them after our kind of event, and I could see the sharpness in her and the confidence. But what was more important, what was more amazing was how her dad was looking at her. That's the kind of the sign of how India is, like how confident and how young I think we are kind of moving forward. I think and post that, like I think we kind of we keep building. And what I want to say is that I think we owe so much to so many people for building this, right? We are so grateful, first of all, like our customers. When we started, as you saw in the video, like we thought, in one month, if we can get like 100 customers, will be very good. But guess what? We got like 600 customers, and some of कुछ customers यहाँ पे आए भी हैं, काफी दूर से आए हैं. तो like we are grateful to those 600 customers and all of you.
Lalit Keshre there speaking from the floor of NSE just minutes ahead of its listing on both NSE and BSE today. After that IPO was subscribed more than 17 times. Rohit, thanks for staying back with us. Help us understand the story of discount broking and basically that industry which doesn't really work on very healthy margins. And for this IPO to be subscribed 17 times, it talks about optimism in India's overall financialization of savings story, which kickstarted maybe just a few months, if not a year or two before COVID had actually struck. And investment, DIY investments as a trend continues to thrive on.
Yeah, it's a big trend. I spent many years, working with brokers, so it was something that we saw happening way back in 2010. But it took off post-COVID. That is correct. COVID actually played the big role in people starting to use these kind of platforms initially with the growth of Zerodha, and now of course Groww has become one of the biggest platforms out there offering these kind of services where people feel that they can quickly sign up online and create an account and trade for very, very low brokerage. One of the biggest things we would have, even when brokerage rates fell to 10 paisa, one of the biggest things we would have is big clients who trade every day will always come back and have a big debate about the brokerage that they're being charged.
Right.
So discount broking plays that role in offering people who want to trade regularly large quantities, and the costs significantly come down. And the broker itself, of course, the revenue model is very, very different. They get the earnings from the various fees that NSE collects, and they're able to generate profitability out of that. So it's a very interesting model,
Right.
and here to stay, of course.
of course, here to stay. But what do you make of those investors who may have been given that or granted that allotment of the IPO? What should their strategy really be? Right now, the grey market premium suggests a 5% upside. Is this a long-term story to stay invested in, no matter what the listing price happens to be today?
So, you know, the broker listing trend, I think, has a long way to go, especially because all these are adding up to the big one, which is NSE itself. And, you know, till that happens, probably the enthusiasm towards brokerages and, you know, investing in brokers like BSE, which has already performed pretty well on the exchanges, is going to continue.
Right.
There's also the other trend, which is investors flocking to the market. We've seen the number of accounts increasing year on year,
Right.
not just since COVID, but probably post 2016, 17, and of course accelerated after COVID. And so it's a secular trend. We can no more say that retail investors coming into the market is a bubble. It's a secular trend which is going to continue till probably you cross 10, 15% of people at large saving into equities.
Right.
When you see that kind of a trend, that is when we'll say that okay, it's getting big.
Right.
But if that's the size that we are looking at, which means the numbers can double, triple from here on a 10-year basis, then brokers are going to continue to grow. So it's not something that's going to end in a flash.
Understood. Of course, it's unlikely to end in a flash, but something else which had taken off pre-COVID but sort of again found its momentum during COVID and continued post-COVID is this whole digital payments sector. And as we talk about Groww's potential sort of, not potential, in fact, now confirmed listing today, there's also the Pine Labs IPO, and that IPO allotment date is also today, November 12th. And that IPO has been subscribed by a modest just 2.5 times or so, with the issue price of about 221 rupees and very little grey market premium at just about 1 rupee or so. So, Rohit, what do you make of Pine Labs? Because as compared to, let's say, a discount brokerage like Groww, this IPO has not been able to generate as much buzz, even though digital payments as an industry has taken off perhaps in equal measure, if not, more than what the discount brokerage industry has.
So the only reason that happens is that many IPOs today are slightly pricey. Even if they are at 10 times sales, which is sort of becoming the average valuation for a lot of companies, 8 times to 10 times, it takes time for the market to absorb people who want to quickly book gains, get out. So usually it takes 3 to 6 months for the market to give it the real valuation that it thinks. And then the price moves based on the future earnings growth trajectory, which has been pretty good for the digital platforms in general, as we have seen, whether it's the case of Paytm, Zomato, and others, Nykaa, which have all gotten listed,
Right.
initially seen a grind lower, and then eventually picked up because the growth momentum was still intact. So I think that is what we have been seeing as a pattern. So that's something we should keep in mind.
All right, Rohit Srivastava, thank you so much for joining us this Wednesday morning and sharing all those inputs, not just on the mood of the market, but also the IPO frenzy which is playing out first with Groww's listing and then with Pine Labs allotment today.